seat. We're going to get started in a little bit. I'd like to welcome you to International Transgender Day of Remembrance and Resilience. I am Dr. Stephanie Mackey. I am the director of the Office of LGBTQI Life here at Vanderbilt. Not here at Vanderbilt, sorry, it's a default. And I'm joined by Inclusion Tennessee and the Human Rights Campaign in hosting this year's T-Door service. Now, before we get started, I want to make sure that all of you are aware of the resources that we have on hand for tonight, just to be sure that you're engaged and you can stay present in ways that are meaningful to you, however that may look like. We have refreshments here to the left of you, so please feel free to grab any at any time you need water or drinks. We also have gender-neutral restrooms that are located right behind me, in the wall behind me here. And then as well, if you feel activated or you need processing, please take whatever steps that you need to take care of yourself if you have to step outside. If you need extra resources, we have folks in the back who are able to assist you there. If you need a licensed professional, we also have counselors from the Hampton House Counseling. Michelle, can you please raise your hand back there? Yes, so please feel free to reach out to Michelle at any moment that you need help with grief or processing. So now I'd like to introduce the speaker for our opening remarks. She is a local trans activist, she's a community advocate, and she's also a very dear friend of mine. Her activism and service on several nonprofit boards has promoted the rights and resilience of trans lives here in Nashville. So please welcome our first speaker, Olivia Hill.
As I look around the room, I really see some truly amazing, brave souls looking back at me. As a combat veteran, I know what bravery and courage looks like, and what I see looking back at me is nothing less. I also see some amazing people that have really, truly blazed a trail for so many of us to come in behind and made it a much easier path. I want to give a huge, huge thank you to Vanderbilt for one, allowing me to speak in front of you, but to listening to the trans community when we said we wanted a neutral place, that they listened. Stephanie and Lindsay went to work to try to find us a place that we could feel safe, and I want to commend them for that. Huge, huge thank you to HRC and all the continuous work that they do for the LGBT community, especially T. Thank you for being here. I see some members of the board of directors, some steering committee and volunteers that are here as well. I also see a couple of elected officials and candidates, and I want to say thank you for being here and listening and supporting. And I want to charge you with, once you leave, keep fighting the fight for us and standing up for us the way you continue to do. We greatly appreciate you. I also want to thank Inclusion Tennessee for stepping up and jumping in the trenches with us at the very last minute and helping this come to fruition, because I don't know that it would have if not been. And thank you for all the hard work you continue to do for Middle Tennessee. What I'd like to do is take you on a little short journey. And if you don't mind, if you'll listen just for a second and think in your mind of what your greatest wish is. And think with it to be good health, cancer-free, a multi-billionaire, to own your own island, to be Miss America, whatever your greatest wish is. Stop and think about what that might be. And then stop and think for a second of how you would feel if you woke up tomorrow morning and that wish came true. And that's what it's like for me every single morning as I wake up as my authentic self. I have worked hard to get to where I have, as so many other trans folks in here have. But imagine for a second, someone stepped in and took your dream away. And that's why we're here tonight, to celebrate the people that just stood up to be their authentic self. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Richmond. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and again, thank all of the organizers and sponsors for this evening's event. The first Transgender Day of Remembrance was held on November 28, 1999, to mark the first anniversary of the murder of Rita Hester, who died of multiple stab wounds in Boston, a crime which still remains unsolved. In 2000, memorial services expanded to 14 cities, and 23 in 2001. Nashville, we joined in November of 2002, and we participated every year ever since. And over the years, additional ceremonies have been added in all 3 grand divisions across the state of Tennessee, from Johnson City to Memphis, as we remember the victims of hate and violence. Each year, we recognize hundreds of documented murders of transgender and gender nonconforming people around the world. The stories come from all categories of race and age. Unfortunately, the tragedies can sometimes be self-inflicted because of the bullying and harassment that transgender and gender nonconforming youth encounter, leading to suicides that are often overlooked by the media. In Tennessee, we applaud the Office of the Attorney General for interpreting the state's hate crimes law to be inclusive of transgender people, and of the Metro Police Department for having an LGBTQ liaison and requiring training of officers on transgender issues. But both the outgoing and newly incoming Attorney General have also filed briefs in federal court arguing that employers should have the right to fire LGBTQ employees, while members of the Tennessee General Assembly push a plethora of hateful legislation, leading the New York Times to note that Tennessee leads the nation in discriminatory culture wars laws. In just the past 2 years, they have criminalized transgender students' use of public facilities, which will lead to more bullying and harassment of transgender and gender nonconforming students, and denied trans students at all levels from participating in sports. Our state legislature has criminalized homelessness, an epidemic in our community due to the ongoing school bullying and workplace discrimination, and have denied trans youth the right to access to hormones, and sought to criminalize librarians and educators at all levels, including those like myself in colleges and universities, who are simply teaching facts about life in this country for marginalized and oppressed people. Now, just days after the recent election, we have seen the introduction of new legislation that would deny trans youth access to gender-affirming, life-affirming medical care, as well as an attempt to criminalize drag queens for their temerity to read books to children. Just as the transgender community is diverse, representing all walks of life, so too do the people we remember tonight. We come from every ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic group. And although even a cursory glance at the photos on the Transgender Day of Remembrance website will show that the majority tend to be African American or Latino women, again, we are a diverse group. While the majority of recent victims are male to female male members of our community have also been victimized by brutal hate crimes, illustrated so vividly by the story of Brandon Raymond, aka Brandon Tina, who was brutally murdered along with 2 of his friends in Humboldt, Nebraska on New Year's Day, 1993, as shown in the film Boys Don't Cry. Of course, 10 years ago, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, signed a new law that makes hate crimes against all transgender, as well as lesbian, gay, and bisexual people now a federal crime. This moment was the culmination of many years of hard work by transgender rights advocates and our allies who stood by us as others were willing to leave transgender people out of this vital piece of legislation. We still need protection, however, which passage of the Federal Equality Act will provide. This bill has passed in the House of Representatives, and we thank Congressman Jim Cooper and Steve Cohen of Tennessee for supporting it, but it is now one of many bills stuck behind the filibuster. We also applaud Representative Pramila Jayapal of Washington State for her resolution, the Transgender Bill of Rights, which spells out the rights that transgender people are absolutely deserving of. And we encourage Congress to move forward on this legislation as well. The issue of anti-transgender violence has gained increasing prominence in the last several years, and yet the violence continues. That is why we are here tonight and in similar locations all around the world this week to remember those who were taken from us far too early because they were different, and to commit ourselves to the fight for equal rights and justice for all.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. My shirt's open. Alrighty. So, we will now take a moment to honor and remember those we have lost due to transphobia and anti-trans violence. This includes our trans siblings from across the U.S., as well as those who lived in Tennessee. Assisting with the reading of the names, we have Lauren Mitchell, Chandler Quayle, Taylor Deek, Jordan Constantine, and Natalie Bouillon. We will also be lighting candles to represent those who have passed as we're reading their names as well. Jimmy J. Lee, 20. Toy Davis, 34. Kimbella Kimball, 21. Amarie Lej, 20. Duval Princess, 24. Cypress Ramos, 21. Naomi Skinner, 25. Matthew Angelo Spampinato, 21.
Poe Delwyn Black, 21. Paloma Vasquez, 29. Tatiana LaBelle, 33. Catherine Katie Newhouse, 19. Kenyatta Keisha Webster, 24. Nia Love Parker, 25. Ariana Mitchell, 17. Fern Feather, 29. Ray Muscat, 24.
Nedra Sequence Morris, 30. Chanalika Giela Dior Hemingway, 30. Sasha Mason, 45. Brazil Johnson, 28. Shamaine Giselle Marie, 27. Artesia Richmond, 30. Keshia Chanel Jeter, 26. Charity Bush, 48. Maricela Castro, 39.
Hayden Davis, 28.
Andy Reed, 29. Aaron Lynch, 26. Maddie Hoffman, 47. Dee Dee Ricks, 33. Regina Maya Allen, 35. AC Morrison, 30. Samaj Billingsley, 33. Tiffany Banks, 25.
Nakia Liddell Baker, 31. Tiffany Berry, 21. Gianna Blake. Leon Brown, 24. Michelle Byrne. Cynthia and Felicia Kaufman, 22. Anna Melissa Cortez, 20. Cicely Dianca, 33. Kizzy Fowler, 24. Danielle Franklin, 27. Lily D. Houston. Duana Johnson. Linda Krager. Alexandra Leos, 41.
Michelle Marie, 40. Greg McKendry, 60. Peanuts Christian Page, 24. Reverend John Gypsy Prowett. Della Reeves Lester Childress, 46. Julie Smith. Allison Kristen Tidwell. Tristan Van, 47. Francine Wilson. Ebony Whitaker, 20. Barry Winchell, 21. Kitty Monroe, 27. Ida, 18. Rest in power.
Now we will transition to some reflections from Reverend Rocky Major.
Good evening, everyone. Baptist preachers, you gotta speak back. Good evening, everyone. Today we gather to honor men and women whose lives have been taken due to hate, bigotry, prejudice, and more specifically, transphobia. As we are in this space, many may be experiencing a range of emotions. This could be of sadness, fear, anger, disgust, hopelessness, love, peace, or even joy. However, what is true for many is the feeling of grief. We grieve for the lives taken whose families and friends still have not received justice. We grieve for the lack of inclusion of transgender and non-binary status as a protected identity. We grieve for the legislators who don't see the need for gender-affirming care for adolescents. We grieve for the reality of being looked over and discredited. We grieve for healthcare discrimination, which affects routine treatments, access to counseling, fertility treatment, and more. We grieve religious and faith institutions that promote ideals that push away rather than pull in and accept with love. We grieve the overall lack of empathy within our society and greater community. You know what the experts say, there are 5 stages of grief. The first being denial, which can look like avoidance and mindless behavior. Anger, which can look like sarcasm and passive aggressiveness. Bargaining, which can look like assuming the worst and perfectionism, depression, which can look like the reduced social interest and motivation, and then acceptance, which can look like honest communication and being present in the moment. Whichever stage you find yourself in, it is my appeal that we progress towards acceptance, but more importantly, progress towards hope and a better tomorrow. I'm not sure what everyone calls their higher power or guiding force, or even if you identify with that language, I call mine God. Others may reference it as the divine, Shiva, Buddha, Allah, Yahweh, or Olodumare. But when thinking about the transphobic violence that has resulted in countless unwarranted deaths over the years, I can't help but question, where is God? If not careful, I may even question to the point of doubt that God can. But as I was preparing these reflections, I was reminded that although God may not have done it yet, doesn't mean that God won't do it. Until then, we must find strength in resting in God's love for us. I'm reminded of a time when I was a chaplain in the hospital. As I was walking on my ICU unit, I was called in to speak with a man named Ken and his partner. This was not my first time seeing Ken, but this was my first time engaging with Ken, because during most of his stay, he was non-communicative. However, this day we developed a connection, and Ken felt comfortable to speak openly to me about his life as a man of trans experience. Ken told me that growing up, he had been an active member in one of the mainline denominations, but as he began the acceptance of himself, Ken was excommunicated from the church and his family. He expressed his deep grief, but also he expressed that he never lost faith in God. This was in conjunction with a supportive community and his partner who had been with him for over 50 years, that was able to make it through the many hard trials. In this moment, the reality of being in the ICU with the prognosis of death, he became very aware of his mortality and the potentiality for life beyond. In this moment, Ken expressed his love for God, but also his fear of where he would go eternally. In that moment, I knew that although I could not speak for God, I was aware that I was a representation of God. In his fear and questioning, I reaffirmed to Ken that regardless of what he has been through in his life or the choices that he has made, God's love abounds, and that he is safe in God's hand. It is my hope today that we also remember Ken as we too rest in the love of God and the hope for a better tomorrow. Thank
We know that there are too many stories and too many names of the people we have lost that we would ever fully be able to know and honor in this night. But still we gather, as small as that can feel, a drop in a bucket of seemingly unending violence against our community. Still we gather. Because when we gather, when we say their names, when we light these candles, we recommit to ending violence against our community. We recommit to hope. So on Transgender Day of Remembrance and Resilience, our hope is not quantified in the numbers of those who come to mourn or the number of the candles we light. Our hope is grounded in the action of looking grief and injustice in the face and getting up to live another day. When you are transgender, your living is an act of hope. When you love someone who is transgender, your loving is an act of promise. So when we come to this place alongside one another to lament and to resist, we embody that hope for one another. And I think this year that hope for me feels like a small seed. But that small seed is planted deep in our hearts and watered by the tears that are shed for those we have lost. And we hold that seed with extra care for the life and the loss that this community has experienced, that our schools have experienced. We know that violence doesn't only come from outside, it sometimes works its way inside. So we know too many of our community who have suffered from self-harm and suicide. And we don't always know their names, but we know that they too are just as worthy to be named and held in this moment of defiance against an unjust world. We hold those names we know, and those names we will never know. And I want to make space that maybe tonight, that commitment to hope and that commitment to living to honor those we have lost might just feel too heavy a burden today. There are some people here, probably online, who have personally known someone and have lost that person to the senseless violence. And we hold you in our hearts tonight. So I want to make space that maybe this year you are steeped in your grief and just getting yourself here or clicking on the live stream was hard enough. Maybe tonight you're finding that the pain is too much. Or maybe you're feeling that fear and hate that has been cast on our community here in Middle Tennessee, and maybe you're feeling a little overwhelmed. But whatever emotion is meeting you this evening, whatever awareness you find yourself in this moment, know that you are not alone. That they cannot take from us. So look around if you're feeling brave. Look around and know that each of us showing up here tonight plants those seeds of hope and resistance and resilience, as together we tend a beautiful garden. Even when winter seems all around us, our seeds take root. And in our memorial garden, we draw on our communal resilience, and we leave inspired for whenever we're ready to take that first step. I have what feels like a ridiculous hope that next year we might read less names. But my hope goes much further than the numbers. My hope is that we together find a way to live and to thrive and to grow, even among the weeds, honoring those who have parted this world too soon.
Wow, see, I haven't turned around those time I've been here, so it's super beautiful to see all of those faces. Thank you for this space. My name is Sim Willie. I'm an out north baby, a fresh, and I do mean fresh, community organizer. You know, check the figure. I am Black. I am trans, I'm a father, I'm an educator. I'm a writer of many things and a storyteller who focuses on intersectionality, how everything is connected. We are in a country, in a city where history is being erased, bodies are being pushed out, politicians are being very clear about how they feel about this idea of ownership. Who owns our bodies, our land, our homes, our stories, our flowers. In North Nashville, there are no flowers, just construction and remnants and trans folks experiencing homelessness without services and without flowers. In this city, like most cities, our children spend the majority of their days away from us, usually in a school building while we are out working, creating, or surviving. We trust them in these spaces with adults that have made personal promises to us to keep them safe and loved. They have promised to plant them, feed them, and help them grow and remain beautiful, like flowers. Recently, I've been saddened and angry hearing about broken promises, about adults deciding that their ignorance and violent ideals are more important than the safety of our children, specifically our trans children. A few weeks ago, my heart sank hearing about a teenager who was robbed of the experience of love, and of flowers, so much that she believed that living was no longer an option for her. After school administrators misgendered her, gaslit her, and expelled her, harmed her after promising to care for her. While our children are being harmed and dying, government officials are too busy telling them why they can't live, why they can't use a bathroom, why they can't play a sport they love, why they can't celebrate their identities because one day it may become a felony. In such a critical time, where they are learning themselves and trying to love themselves in a world that's making it hard for them to believe that this kind of love exists, they are being erased. And these young people, our young people, don't deserve to have to be remembered. They deserve celebration. When there's a birthday, someone receives a bouquet of flowers. At a wedding, you are surrounded by flowers. An anniversary calls for flowers. After a performance, you are handed flowers. But for my people, for trans folks, we get the most beautiful flowers after we can no longer smell them. But we like flowers too. And we like them now. Give us our roses while we're still here. We want our Eden here. We want our safety without having to ask for it. We want our history recognized, represented, and celebrated in public so our trans youth know their life is worthy of such flowers. Let's talk about resilience and what those flowers look like. Resilience, according to some Oxford Dictionary, means 1, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. 2, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. Now, the first definition seems to get over it, so I'd rather us think about it as we are strong enough to recover from any challenge, as our ancestors have. You don't get rainbow cups, t-shirts, and pride parades without the strength and power of queer and trans folks fighting and organizing for freedom and love. But we also deserve our process. The second definition mentions spring. In the winter, everything rests. After giving us some color first, a reminder of what everything can be. But it does get dark for a while. We seem to have less time and less sun, less interaction, but really, it's a reminder to rest and prepare for the time where everything grows again, and everything will. We just can't rush its process. This is our winter, so we can rest and get ready for our spring. To me, resilience is action. It's not having to tell a family, I'm sorry for your loss. Rather, walking through the most beautiful garden daily. Resilience is telling Dr. Adrienne Battle and the school board to put leaders in schools that are trained and invested in supporting our trans students, as opposed to trying to find justification to hire more cops to scare students into behaving how they prefer. Or demanding that MMPS invite representatives from this community to connect with the students so that they know we are here, as opposed to allowing officers to come and act out scenarios with student bodies from out east like it's cute. Like we don't know they're already here. Resilience is making sure folks know that if they are to invite you into any space, your flowers sure better meet you there. Resilience is remembering the beauty in flowers, remembering what they smell like. Because while I will always love remembering those before me, celebrating the lives of those we've lost, I'm tired of mourning and grieving those taken from us. Our community deserves better because we have given this city and this country everything. Before we go, though church has done more than enough to, damage me in my experience, there's one thing I always enjoyed from my pastors in the past. is when they said, turn to your neighbor. So turn to your neighbor, if you're comfortable, and say, neighbor, here are your flowers. Neighbor, give someone else theirs. And now to yourself, I want you to say, be resilient. Love y'all. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a way to close. So as we come to our final remarks here, I just want to give some deep gratitude to everybody who spoke today. It's such an honor being in community with all of you. To everyone, I hope as you leave today, you can root yourself in the collective strength of our trans ancestors. Their spirits go before you, countless in their numbers. In your grief, in your rage, in your joy and your hope, they are with you. Open yourself to the promise of those beautiful trans beings yet to come. Their spirits follow behind you, your wildest dreams waiting to be born. In your grief, in your rage, in your joy and your hope, they are with you. Steady yourself with the love of your family by blood or by choice, your friends, your community. We move beside you, unstoppable in our love. In your grief, in your rage, in your joy and your hope, we are with you. Thank you for being here. I think we can eat snacks now.